everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 20 of the case study of Vanitas. And last episode was hitting all the romantic chords. I was like, Vanitas realizing that he doesn't have to be alone, that he not only has Noe, but he has Jeanne with him. Like the romantic, like the bisexual flowers, the romance between Vanitas and Jeanne, between Noe and Vanitas. I'm officially multi-shipping them all. And then speaking of romance, we got Chloe and Jean-Jacques, their whole plot resolved. They get to be together. It's so sweet. I absolutely love them as a couple. They are adorable. And then meanwhile, Roland and Olivier have gone back with the Chaucers. They've taken Astolfo, who has a horrific, tragic backstory with them. And then seemingly Johan and Dante got what they were coming for at the end of the episode, whatever that's worth. So what do we do with that? It was framed as such a comical thing where they're like, we found the thing, but I'm like, I don't know. They seem to be working for somebody that has possibly like ill intentions. So what do we do with that? So I don't know, but we're entering into the final 5 episodes, and I'm very, very curious what's going to happen because we've solved this act. So I'm sure we have time for one more act, one more mini arc of this season. What is it going to be? Are we going after Ruthven? Are we going after the Blue Moon Vampire? Are we going after the brother? Are we doing all 3? Is the shapeless one going to appear? All of the above. It's interesting what's going to happen, and I'm very, very curious. So before we dive in, as my dogs play with their toys, I have some comments that I want to address. Basically, K.A. was talking about the voice actor for the goat skull in episode 17 that's been very, very mysterious that we're not talking about. It's actually a voice actress. And the voice actress is the same one. They're not known for many roles of shows that I've seen, but they do play Hordaland in Vinland Saga. So I thought that was interesting. It was voice actress. I'm like, what do we do with that? What does that mean? I don't know, but that's interesting. An interesting choice. I'm like, is it the Blue Moon Vampire taking a form in front of Noe? What? I don't know. What do we do with that? And then Jeanne, I think Jeanne hit it on the head and knocked it out of the park in terms of why I like both of these ships and why I kind of gravitated towards Vanitas and Noe. Basically, Jeanne and Vanitas, they described as enemies to lovers. Totally agree. But they're the kind of like fast-paced romance that have lots of sexual and suggestive overtones that you see in a lot of romantic stories. And I totally agree with that. And I think that's good. I like that they represent that side of shipping, and a lot of people are into that. And I totally see it since the last episode. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with Vanitas and Jeanne. Okay. But they described Noe and Vanitas as like the slow burn with like slow feeling realizations and these deep metaphors and allegories. And I was like, this is why I really like Vanitas and Noe, because that's my type of romance. I like me a slow burn. I like the slow realization of feelings, the tsundere that realizes that he likes the other one, and then that idea of these allegories and symbolism tied to their love. That's my jam. So that's why I'm all about Noe and Vanitas. But I can absolutely respect Vanitas and Jeanne. Totally respect it, and I like it too, so it's fun. And then the idea of the teardrop, there's been the tear stone. It's been called the divine tear stone, the god tear stone, the blue tear stone, but tear stone means teardrop. And in the OP, we see the Blue Moon Vampire with the tear coming down its face. And is that connected to the Book of Vanitas? Is that connected to what was used to power the alteration engine? Lots of questions and things being answered, but I'm really excited to see where this final act goes. We have lots of questions getting answered, and the good news is if they don't get answered, we still have the manga. So I'm planning out what I'm going to be doing with the manga. I'm getting all that settled. I am going to read the manga before we jump into another series because I'm a sucker, but I am going to look into it. I am going to talk about it. I think I definitely for sure am going to do a review of volumes 1 through 5, the first core, because I've been told that there's not a lot of differences between the manga and anime for the first core, which is episodes 1 through 12. So I'm going to be looking at volumes 1 through 5 together and doing a review of those, kind of like what I did with Yona the Dawn, with Bungo Stray Dogs, things like that. And then I'm going to see what I'm going to do about the other ones. So we'll just wait and see on that. But that's at least going to happen after episode 24. I'll at least have volumes 1 through 5 reviewed, and then we'll go from there. So, because the manga is off of hiatus and ongoing now. So yeah. I'm excited, y'all. I want to give a real quick shout out over to Patreon to thank the patrons for supporting us this week. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of your support. Those of you on YouTube as well as Patreon, you guys are amazing, and I appreciate all the comments, all the likes, all the shout outs, everything. Y'all make this a lot of fun to talk about this series and other series as well. But the philanthropy tier over here, they get a special shout out each week in various videos, but they go above and beyond each month, get all the perks on the channel, as well as they get to break ties in the polls, and they get mentioned in my videos. So I want to thank Edgar, Dana, Alex Cornejo, Kiri, Be Happy, Shimoyama, Nameless Monster, Argent, as well as Matthew Palfinier, as well as Tyrone, Anime Annie, Eric, Sunspots, Translucent Men, Legatus, Anna, and Goob. Thank you all so very much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. Of course, all of my love. So let's not waste any more time. We're going to get started on this and just see what happens. Crunchyroll's been a little bit grumbly the last few days, so hopefully they won't be grumbly this time. But we're going to find out, all right? So with that being said, we are going to start episode 20 of the case study of Vanitas and just see what we get, shall we? And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. This may be my favorite episode of the series. Funniest thing I've watched in a long time, and it was absolutely perfect. I am all on board the Vanitas and Jeanne ship. I have some reservations about it, which I'll talk about in this episode, but I am all aboard it. I'm like, yes, if this is your true love, if this is your young love, it seems like it's Vanitas's first love, and it seems like it's Jeanne's first love, which we'll talk about that in this, but yeah, so they bookend the entire episode with that's number 71. It's the brother. Now the question is, he seems to be missing an arm. How that happened, I don't know. We'll talk about it, but it seems like it starts off with him and ends with him. Of course, everybody's using everybody to try to get to Noe. Noe can't catch a damn break in this series. He is our little lamb. He's our little cinnamon bun, and everybody's after him. It's like the only one that doesn't want Noe is Vanitas, and ironically, he's the only one that Noe says he doesn't like Vanitas, but let's be real, right? I mean, it's like, I'm waiting for one day to him to be like, I don't like you, I love you. And it's like, but I do like the way that they frame this at the very beginning. It's very like grisly. It reminded me of Moreau's lab, which is why I thought we were going back to the past here. And so we have like this saying, what is going on? Like, did that memory return? So what is this? So we started out with this alleyway where the woman was attacked, and we see Domi. Domi's attacked this woman and like drank from her and killed her, right? And she says, what is this? And she's like, did that memory return? She's bit that woman. She's like, you poor thing. And she's like, I hate to see you like this, mademoiselle. And then that kid shows up with the hand and like the suit on. Okay. So I think it's very interesting that they make the boy, they make him sepia toned. I bet his eyes are bright blue. I bet he's a blue moon vampire too. I bet his eyes are bright blue, and they just make him sepia toned so you can't tell the white hair and the blue eyes. I bet that's the case. But yeah, the question is, what is he making her do? Now we know Ruthven can control people with his blood. Like when he bites people, he can control them and make them do a thing, right? But he basically, whenever Ruthven bites someone, he can make them swear a vow to do something for him. I wonder if number 71 has the ability to control people that he's bitten and make them do what he wants, kind of like vampire zombies, right? I don't know, but it seems like he gives them an order or tells them maybe he can do the same thing Ruthven can do. I don't know. We haven't been able to see what his ability is. We don't know anything about number 71 except that Vanitas considers him a brother, and the Blue Moon Vampire took him with Vanitas. So why does he have a fake hand? We don't know. We don't know. But all we do know is that he is using Dominique to try to get Noe, which is problematic. Right? So let's go back to this episode. I like that Noe instantly runs in with Vanitas being like, something's wrong with him. Like, Noe is trying to watch over him. And everyone there figures it out and they're like, oh, are you kidding me? And they like kick him out, except Noe. Noe is the only one that doesn't figure it out. And it's absolutely hilarious. The animation on everything is so funny in this episode where he's just like sunken in. He's like, I don't understand. It's great. I did want to bring up something, and I've been hesitating to bring it up because I didn't know if it was going to be a spoiler or not. But way back in the cabin scene, right? Way back in the cabin scene. After the cabin scene, for some reason, Vanitas, Whoosh and Sweebian noted that Vanitas's earring was missing. And I was like, and I didn't say anything because I was really afraid that it would become like an important plot point and it would have been a spoiler. So I was like, I'll just hold off and not say anything and see what happens. But he's wearing it this episode. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why he went without it for like 5 episodes, but he's wearing it again now. So I don't know why. I don't want to know. So if it is something related to the manga, don't tell me. I'm sure that we'll find out. Maybe it's like ends up being a side story in the manga. I don't know. But just don't tell me and we'll figure it out when we get to it in the manga. But I did think that was weird. And now it's back this episode. So it's really curious. But yeah, poor Vanitas, he just doesn't understand it. I love that Mur is on the desk as they're like, let him die. And like Mur is on the desk with the vampires. I love the vampires have just accepted Mur into their home, feeding him on top of the table like he's the executive. It's so freaking hilarious. I love it. And then Noe's like, he won't go see a doctor. What should we do? You're my last hope. And they're like, oh no, he's fine. The incurable disease. The irony that our vampire specialist who can cure any vampire of their malnomen cannot cure love. Cannot cure love. And all he can do is think about Jeanne, and they're like, Urgh. And they're like, and then when she's like, my blood, it felt good, better than usual. And they're like, I love that they're, to a vampire, that's kind of like something very sensual. And they're all like, should we be knowing about this? Should you be telling us about this? And then they kick him out. I love it. Poor Noe, he's got his arm in a sling, right? Where he's been injured. I love that they gave Mur a doggy bag of his leftovers too. And then Vanitas leaves to go on the bridge, and everything's beautiful and sunny and flowers everywhere, and it's like the best thing ever. Oh my God, it is freaking hilarious. I'm like, are you kidding me? And that's when he hears the couple walk by and they say that it's love. And he's like, what is this? Like, it's so sad because Vanitas has never experienced love before. And he doesn't think he's worthy of it. And it's like, no. And Jeanne didn't think that as a burro, she would ever have the opportunity to love someone. So it's these two young lovers experiencing it for the first time. And the thing about it is, right, like, I know on my hand a handful of people that the first person they fall in love with is who they end up with. And I know it's a fictional story, and in 90% of fictional stories, their first loves is the one they're with forever. That's not really how it happens in reality. Usually you have a first love and you go through the motions and then you realize that, no, maybe we're not meant to be together. And that is my one thing. I'm not meaning to put a damper on the Jeanne and Vanitas ship, but in all honesty, I feel like Jeanne and Vanitas, they have chemistry in terms of that they both are caring people. They don't show it usually unless you know them for a while, but they are caring individuals. And they are attracted to one another based on the kindness that they share towards one another. But they don't really have any mutual interests or anything like that. And I know what you're going to say. A lot of people are going to say, well, Vanitas and Noe are polar opposites. But there is the rule that opposites attract. And so Vanitas and Noe are like polar opposites, but they both have this center, like, moral compass that's similar. So I can see them getting together based on opposite attract mentality. Vanitas and Jeanne aren't exactly opposites. So then it's like, well, what do they have in common? And it's fine. I'm rooting for them because they love each other, and I'm a big romantic. So I'm like, if it's mutual, you rarely get like a mutual romance out in the open like this in a shonen. So I'm like, yes, do it. I'm like, sure. I'm like, give us this. And I guess it's a shoujo. Maybe. Is it? It's in Shonen Jump, isn't it? maybe it's not. What genre is this? You know what? I've never asked what genre the case study of Vanitas is. I can have a hard time telling what's shonen, what's seinen. It is a shonen. So yeah, that's interesting. Like, it is a legit shonen. It is rare for a shonen to come out and just have two main characters be legit in a romantic relationship. Usually it's like that's the end of the story. The last thing you have is them getting together, which is why I do wonder if Vanitas and Jeanne are going to be like a long-term thing, or if they're both going to be like, yeah, we loved each other, but it was like our first love, young love. If that's going to be the case, I don't know. Or if they're just like, because she sucked his blood and because he's had her suck his blood, they're attracted that way. You know, there is a biological component that says that when you have sex with someone, your bodies, your biologies do make you feel closer to that person because you've biologically interacted. So it's like, well, maybe that's the case with them. I'm not trying to diss or rain on the Jeanne and Vanitas parade. I'm happy it's happening. I'm ecstatic. I'm glad it's happening in a shonen. But I do wonder if it's going to be like a long-term thing. I don't know if it is or not. But again, and then you have Noe and Vanitas who say that they hate each other, so then there's no long-term thing with that either. So what am I saying? But I can ship both. I ship them both for different reasons, right? I do love the lovey-doveyness of it. I love the lovey-doveyness of Jeanne and Vanitas. And Noe is kind of like, okay, you love her. Well, let's act on that. But then Noe at the very end has the big sentimental moment with him. And I'm like, okay. So it's like, I'm having my cake and eating it too this episode, and it feels really, really good. But anyway, poor Vanitas, he's like, what is this? And then he hears it's love, and he starts freaking out, being like, this can't be happening. And that's when he runs into Roland and Olivier. Roland and Olivier, I like that Roland, it makes sense Roland's in the aviator hat and the outfit because he just flew a plane. Makes sense. He looks very Parisian. If I think of a Parisian pilot, that's what Roland looks like right now. But Olivier looking so dapper and dashing in his top hat with his braid and his suit. I love that the moment Roland sees Vanitas, like, oh, hey, Vanitas, and he's like a little cat. He's like a cat that just got thrown into a shower. He's like, but then realizes that he can talk to Roland and Olivier. And I love Olivier's just the purple, the velvet. God, it looks good. They both look amazing. He's like, is this a friend of yours? And he's like, I like that Roland calls them Vincent and Gilbert, which is their fake names from when they invaded. Okay, I was like, why is it calling him Vincent and Gilbert? Those are his fake names from when they invaded the castle as chasseurs. And it's funny because Roland calls him that, and then as soon as he leaves, he's like, I'm worried about Vanitas. So he's just calling him that just for show. Roland, you deceiving dude, you. That's so funny. And he's like, what trouble are you causing outside of work? And then he's like, oh, it's a drinking contest. And Olivier's like, you're a human sponge when it comes to liquor. So basically, Olivier has noted that Roland is a heavyweight when it comes to drinking. Duly noted. Do not challenge Roland to a drinking contest. Why are we surprised? But I love that. And then he's like, Roland has done you wrong. Have a cup of coffee. And Vanitas is like, and then he's like, well, I'm interested in what your hobbies are, even if it's a woman. And Vanitas is like, oh my God, what do I talk about? And then Roland's like, oh, I don't have a lover, at least not right now. I love this like little subtle, like flirtatious moment between them where Olivier's like, you don't have a lover right now? And he's like, were you dumped again? And he's like, oh, well, he's like, that dame that threw herself, you know, if anyone's popular with the ladies, it's you. They like humble brag on each other in this moment. And Olivier's like, well, they do think that I'm quite handsome. I'm like, oh my God. And then Roland's like, and he's modest too. These two, I love it. And he's like, I'd like to know if you're up to something. And he's like, you're the source of my woes, Roland. And that's when Vanitas is like, good, I can sit here and talk to these two. They have mutual disgust towards each other, like me and Noe. Let's do this. He just sits down to have the cup of coffee, but then he doesn't say anything. He just sits there while Roland's talking about them soaring over Paris through the airplane. And then I like that he's like, what I'm asking. And I love that the coffee cup is shaking. He doesn't know how to ask what I'm asking. And Roland is just like, yes, do you have experience with romance? And they're both like, well, we have some experience. And then Vanitas does the, oh, it's just a friend of mine trope, and his ears are bright red. He's so obvious that it's him, and they're like, okay. And then Roland's like, sure, go on. Like just, Roland is the ultimate friend you want to talk to about these things, because he'll just sit there and listen and just nod his head and go, yep, tell me more. And it's so hilarious. Everything about this, the chibis, the animation, the facial expressions, I was just dying. It was so funny. I love it. And there's this pain in my heart. And they're both like, really? Seriously? He's like, what is this love interest like? Like, Roland's like, give me all the tea. Give me the tea. And so then Vanitas says, she's beautiful with skin of white and an ample bosom. Now, again, and then I like Olivier's like, not bad. Why can't you stop thinking about her? Or did something happen? He says, why can't he? I don't know the details. But he was entertained by her reactions. So here's the thing. At first, the way he talks about her just seems like a surface level physical attraction. He just thinks that she's pretty. But there's like, okay, then why do you like her? Is it just because she's pretty? What is it? And he says, well, at first, he was getting a rise out of her by teasing her. He's like, I enjoyed her reactions. And we know that he was teasing her and like giving her a hard time, right? He thought that was the only attraction. But there are many sides of her he didn't expect. Like her being fierce, her being determined, her being shy and vulnerable. Like Jeanne is a pretty well-rounded character, and she's great, and Vanitas is now experiencing that. Like, and she doesn't take his shit, she holds him accountable. It threw him for a loop. And the other day she threw him down as if to claim him heart and soul. And I like Roland and Olivier are like, to claim you? Like, threw you down? What's happening? What? And then she kissed him. And then they're like, and I love Vanitas. He saw her smile like she had never before. And that face where he's like, what do I do with this? And that's about it. But it was enough to seal her image into my mind. Uh-huh. And that's when Olivier coughs like, you just gave away that it's you that we're talking about, not another person. Oh my God. And Roland is the good friend that doesn't say anything. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, Olivier, don't laugh. Because he knows too. He's like, my dessert went down the wrong way. Uh-huh. And then he's like, oh, well, it's like she shines. And Vanitas is like, well, Vincent, simply put, it's love. I love that he gives like the thumbs up. He gives a thumbs up. It felt like the mom from Skate the Infinity that's like, tell her how you feel. Like it just felt like that moment. Oh my God. And Vanitas is like, no, this is the last thing he wants is for it to be love. Because that's not what he went into this for. That's not what he was like, that's not what he wanted. No. And he's like, what is this? And around this time, when he's like, it's true love, how does one cure this disease? Around this time, Noe shows up with Myrrh. And at first, I thought that Noe wasn't going to hear it all, that he was just going to hear about this disease and be like, Vanitas has a disease. What is this? We are conveniently also ignoring the mark on his arm that is growing. So, we're just going to ignore that for now. It's not important. We don't have to bring it up. He says, I'm used to pain, but nothing like this. And that's so sad. The idea that he's used to physical pain, but not love. That makes me so sad. And Noe's like, I can't stand this agony. And Noe's like, the sickly feeling like I'm being rewritten from the inside. I love the way that's phrased because it's like being rewritten, like the formula within him is being rewritten. I love it. And he's just blushing the whole time. That sickly feeling. Uh-huh. Oh God, I love it. I cannot bear it. And Roland's just like, really? You're in love? And Olivier's like, oh, this is a weird way of putting it. He's not even pretending it's about the friend anymore. No, not at all. And they're like, but dear Vincent, it sounds like your love interest feels the same about you from what you've said. And that's what gets Vanitas. He's like, what? How? He's like, you didn't know? He's like, that can't be true. No way in hell. Why not? Because I approached her. I thought she'd never love me. And I love that Roland gets really soft there. He's like, why would you think that? Like, Roland getting so soft there. Like, he's just like, I want to understand what's wrong, Vanitas. Like, best friend vibes. I love Roland being the friend you can go spill the tea to, and he'll just sit there and listen with all of the patience in the world. And then he slams down his hands because it's revolting. And I love that Noe's like leaning over against the guy so he can hear. I love the man's like, what are you doing beside me? He's like crouched down. Why would anyone love someone like me? And he looks so pitiful there. He just looks so pitiful and sad. And it's like, what do you mean, why wouldn't anyone love you? Oh. And it all comes out to Roland and Olivier and to Noe just how insecure Vanitas is. And how little self-worth that he thinks he has. It's so sad. And I'm sure this goes back way beyond and before the Blue Moon Vampire. This is like back at Moreau, like back when he's being experimented on. I'm sure this goes pretty deep. But it's so sad. And Noe's like, oh. And Olivier's like, whoa, this guy. And the Roland's like, I'm so shocked. You despise yourself more than I thought. And that's when he's like, what? And he's like, don't worry. I'm going to love you twice as much now. If you're incapable of loving yourself, I'll double the love I have for you. I love it! He's like, God's love rains down on all in equal measure. You simply failed to notice. You don't need to be scared to love someone. Oh my God. And Vanitas is like, no. He like hisses and like gets away. He's like, I'm an idiot for discussing it with you. An idiot. And he just runs away like a cat. It's great. And I love that Roland's like, oh, hey, Gilbert, you might want to go get him. He's like, see ya. And then, of course, we see that Vanitas is like mad about it. He's like, get away from me. And then Olivier notes that Roland gets attached to Vanitas. And I do think so. I think Roland appreciates Vanitas. I think he finds him interesting. And Vanitas has helped change his worldview. So he's pretty invested in Vanitas. And I like that. I like where that's going in this story. It's really, really good. But, of course, as if he'd fall to pieces the moment I took my eyes off of him. Yeah. And I love that little blush. He's like, I can't leave him like that. Man, there's all this bisexual vibes everywhere. I'm like, does Roland like Vanitas? Does Noe like Vanitas? Does Jeanne like Vanitas? Dominique likes Noe. I'm like, there's just ships everywhere. Just ships making port everywhere in this series. And Olivier's like, oh my God, you're hopeless. But yeah, I like Roland's character a lot in this. I love the advice that he gives to Vanitas. I love how patient he is. Because he could have made fun of Vanitas like Olivier does inadvertently, but he doesn't. He's very patient and very kind and accepting, and it's wonderful. I love it so much. Mm-hmm. Then we get back to Jeanne. And Jeanne's just sitting there eating the cake. Like, I would have the reaction that Jeanne would have where I just sit there eating cake like, no, it's fine. Everything's great. And just keep on eating. That's hilarious. Like, she's just eating. And Luca asking. I'm surprised Luca doesn't get mad about this. Instead, he takes her to Dominique to try to talk some sense into the situation. But I'm glad he doesn't get mad. I am a little worried about Jeanne, though. Because, I mean, Noe doesn't care who Vanitas likes at this point. As if he should. But I do worry that Ruthven, if he finds out from Luca that Jeanne likes Vanitas, that he's going to try to use that to his advantage to either get to Vanitas, or he's going to make her attack him, or I am worried about what that might lead to. So that does give me a little bit of pause for concern. Just a wee bit. But it's just so funny that Luca, I like Luca's little cat face where he's like, oh, what are you doing? I also think it's very smart on Vanitas's part that he does not let Jeanne know where Chloe and Jean-Jacques are. I love that because as soon as she got back, Ruthven and the others would try to probe her for information to find out where they are. So the fact that she has nothing to give them information-wise is smart. I like that Vanitas was like, nope, we're not going to give them that opportunity to find that out. It's great. And then she realizes that she's in love. She's doing the same thing that Vanitas is doing, that she's fallen for him, that she's seen the different sides of him like he's seen the different sides of her, and it's affected her feelings for him. Yep. So that is absolutely hilarious. I mean, if the show's promoting it, if the show is saying that it's mutual between them, I'm all for it. Let's do this. Let's do Vanitas and Jeanne. Let's go. But I do think there is still some Noe shipping elements there, so I'm not going to ignore those. And then they go find Domi. Now, so Dominique is being used by 71 that we know of, but we don't know the conditions of her being used. It seems very similar to Jeanne being used by Ruthburn, where they don't remember what's happened. They don't know what's going on. They're just used like that, and then they forget. So let's slow down and discuss this rationally. And they honestly do. They're like, he said he didn't like you. He didn't want to love somebody that loved him back. He said those words. And Jeanne's like, I can't help it. Things changed while we were in the snow-capped mountains. Don't know what to do. So they do bring up a good point that, you know, they try to bring up what Vanitas said, but we, the audience, knows that Vanitas was saying those things because he felt like he had to, and because he doesn't think that he could be worthy of love. So that's why he didn't want somebody loving him that was genuine. And she's like, surely she would fall for him. I like that Dominique was like, why doesn't Jeanne like Noe? And it's like, when has Jeanne ever liked Noe? And Noe doesn't, when Dominique was like, oh, well, Noe looks at her, and she starts getting jealous of the way that Noe looks at Jeanne, I'm like, Noe does not like Jeanne. Noe doesn't like any woman. He may be asexual for all we know. He's not really shown interest in anybody romantically. I'm like, he views Dominique like a sister, and he views Jeanne as a friend. And then I love that Luke is like, hard pass on Noe. I was like, that was freaking hilarious, hard pass. It's like, I don't want that either. Vanitas is the polar opposite of Noe. He treated you horribly, remember? And she's like, oh, well, but he saved me, and those times they treated me horribly, he was actually kind of being tsundere, so it's fine. He's a good person. And she's just so honest about it. And then Dominique's like, oh my gosh, she is all or nothing. It's either we love him or we leave him, right? And the fact that her mother was like the alpha in this situation, her mom like threw this guy down until he like submitted, and Jeanne is like, well, I just got to keep myself in check because I might just like throw him down and have sex with him the next time I see him. And Dominique's like, we can't do this. You can't just have sex on the first date. That's not going to work. Vanitas would freak out. Vanitas would be like a cat that was skinned alive. Nope. And I do like that Jeanne's like, I didn't think romantic love was something a bureau could have. And she's like, now I realize I can have it, and I have these feelings, so I want to act on them. And again, it's like, we don't know if it's going to be long term or if this is just like a fleeting first love, but she's like, if my feelings for him grow unabated, then I may like slam him down the first time I see him. And like a tiger is listed for, oh my God. And Dominique's like, what has gotten into you? No. She's like, going all the way the first time is jumping the gun, isn't it? And she's like, yes. It's just no. I love that she's like, my mother kept pushing till she got my father down and took him for her own. I love that. I love Jeanne's little face there. She's like, my mom did it. And she has like a little tiny smile. And then the mom was like, yes. I was like, oh my God. Hilarious. Hilarious. The facial expressions, so cute. And then I like that Domi's like, it's not my place to criticize how you were brought up in this strong household, but a proper courtship should begin with an exchange of letters. Like her and Noe have done. And I like that Louis in the background like, And then she's like, is that true, Master Luca? And then Master Luca, I love these, like, the sky is so pretty. They're like, oh, he's in such a state of shock that he's become detached from reality. Amazing. He's like, look, rainbows. Like, he's phased out. He can't believe what's happening. The rainbow looks yummy. He completely is out of sorts, doesn't know what's happening. And she's like, didn't you forget that this guy said he had zero interest in the person that loves him? And she's like, well, that's right, but I love him, so I have to now convince him that I don't love him so we can have a normal conversation again until we can find a way to confess and then love him. It's like, I love that she's like, I just have to fake it until we can make it. She's like, I'm an actress, this will definitely work. And then I like that Luke is like, wait, what date? Did they go on a date before? And Domi's like, what are we talking about? She's like, I didn't think Jeanne could be this intense or could smile like that. When we first met, I thought life had robbed her of self-confidence. And I like this for Jeanne. You know, I like, regardless of if this is long-term or not, I love that this is bringing out this side of Jeanne and she's so happy. Like, I love that for her. And then Dominique saying that I thought I'd have to protect her. That's the thing. There is something there where Dominique was like watching over her, and now she's like, ooh, maybe I don't have to do that anymore. And how does that make her feel, right? And she's like, but there was no need. I don't know if it's due to Vanitas, but she's far more expressive than before. And it is due to him. I can't take my eyes off her. And then the thing about it is, I'm like, Domi, Noe's not looking at Jeanne. He's looking at Vanitas. I'm like, do you not get that? Oh no. Oh no. And she's like, I can see why she'd be on Noe's mind. She's nothing like me. And that's when she starts to get like affected thinking about Noe, where she's just like Noe, where she's like grabbing herself thinking about him. So she's having this reaction. Yep. So it seems like whenever she starts thinking about Noe, it like activates something like this desire to go get him, and she's trying to override it, right? Because she cares about Noe. So interesting. So meanwhile, Noe comes out onto landing, looks up at Vanitas is like, really? You're hiding up there, cat? He's like, you're going to catch cold if you stay up there. And I love that he brings him the scarf, like the blanket to put on him. He's like, there's been these curse bear. I love that Noe's like, hey, there's been these vampires attacking, and it seems like a curse bear could be involved. You want to get back in action, old buddy, old pal? Or are you still going to mope here while you are coming to terms with the fact that you love somebody? You big grump. And I love that Noe's like, and he puts the blanket on him. And he's like, Vanitas, I'd never met a human who loathed vampires with all their heart until he met Astolfo in Gévaudan. He's like, I hated him for it. I couldn't let him win, and I don't regret our battle. I'm glad he's saying this. He's like, I'm glad that he doesn't regret fighting Astolfo, but it got him thinking. He's like, what made you take one path and Astolfo another? And he's like, I'm sure the Blue Moon Vampire has something to do with it, but he's like, before all that, he's like, if the tiniest of things had changed, if the littlest of things had been different, that could have been you in his shoes, and I could have been fighting you on that snow-capped mountain. Now, of course, lots of things probably would have been different. We would never have gotten to that point, but the butterfly effect of it. And so Noe's like, I want to stop that from happening, and I want to know, what causes this, and is there anything we can do about it, right? It could have changed your path, the tiniest of things. And he's like, that could have, I like the effect of like the graininess of it. He's like, it could have been you I fought in Gévaudan. And so then he's like, what's your point? And he says, my point is, and I love he jumps off the roof and jumps down. I'm glad it wasn't a chasseur I met that day on La Belline. But a doctor who's a vampire specialist. He's like, I'm glad I met you. He's like, basically, he's like, look, you bumbling idiot. I'm glad I met you. Let's do this. We've got a case to solve. Come on, get out of your funk. And him smiling. I love the way they animate Noe. He's like, of course I still don't like you. Right? I'm just waiting for the moment where he's like, I love you. Instead of saying, I still don't like you. I'm waiting for that moment. He's like, I still don't like you, of course. But nevertheless, I love it. And he looks up at him. I'm glad you're here just the way that you are. And that's the thing too, right? That's the thing too. Is that I think both Jeanne and Noe, they like Vanitas for who he is. It's not for the facade that he puts on. It's not the trolling. Noe is saying, I like you for you. All right. You think that you're not worthy of love. I love the way Noe frames this because he's not coming out and saying that I love you. He's like, of course I don't like you, but I'm glad you're here the way that you are. He's like, I wouldn't trade you for anything. And that's my heart. And I think Jeanne feels the same way. She just says it a different manner. And for Vanitas to be like, okay, you're not saying that. Yeah, I like that Noe is like, I can't say I love you because that's clearly a trigger phrase for you right now, but I'm glad you are the way that you are. Now let's get back in action. It sounds self-serving, but I wanted you to know. And I love the way Vanitas looks at him and then he slowly smiles. I love it. Or he looks at him. He doesn't necessarily smile in that moment. He just looks at him. Like he doesn't know what to say. That's romance to me too. So we got Jeanne and Vanitas dealing with their mutual like puppy love over here, and then you have this deep allegorical romantic subtext with him and Noe, even though they say they don't like each other, and it's like a bunch of cinderella's. And then we cut back to the alleyway with all the pipes and everything. I like that there's pipe work and stuff as a representation, and it's like the Paris amusement park. It looks like fun. I hope I can go someday. And then we see like Dominique, he's like, oh, not again. And she like stumbles back towards him. Like, and she's bitten somebody. And she comes back towards him. This won't do. I asked you to bring Noe to me. Ooh, and he like puts the hands in the hair. Why won't you do as I say? If you won't bring him to me, then I'm going to use you as bait. Oh no. I don't like how this is going. I don't like where this is going. And he brings out the mechanical hand that has a knife coming out the end of it. So what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that? What? Why? So I don't know, but we'll find out, right? In any case, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. This episode was hilarious. I loved it. I'm full-blown shipping both Noe and Jeanne with Vanitas now for different reasons, but we can multi-ship, right? I can dock 2 ships into the same dock, right? Sure. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope you all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of the case study of Vanitas.